You're listening to the Hella Well with Danielle show, a podcast taking women of color on a journey exploring all things wellness and travel related. We're all about showing you how to put on your oxygen mask first and creating lasting self-care habits that will free you to travel the world and live the life you truly desire, and not one you have to fake loving. I'm your host, Danielle Washington. Now let's buckle up and start this journey. Welcome to the Hello Well with Danielle podcast, your weekly mental vacay for the busy women of color who is on her healing journey and just needs a little bit of guidance. I am your host, Danielle Washington, and today we're talking about seeking your own dang advice. Yeah, I said it, not going outwards, not asking your coworker, your mama, your friend, asking the tarot cards. It's looking internally for advice. The reality of it all is the best advice literally comes from within rather than externally. We probably know ourselves better than anyone else does, making us the best person to go to for advice, which is a no-brainer, right? Well, no, it's not necessarily a no-brainer because though it sounds good and it is true that we know ourselves better than anyone else knows us, that's not the case for everyone. For some people, when there's a lack of self-trust, going to yourself for advice may seem mad difficult, and I speak from my own personal experience. And so that's what we're talking about today in today's topic. But before we get started, I really want to do what I like to do every time, which is tune in. I realized last week we did not tune in, so we're going to tune in. We're going to tune in a little differently this time. So I want you, if you're new, what we do is we just take a moment just to breathe, a moment to quiet the noise around us and just tune in and making this our mental vacay. During the short time together here on this podcast episode, this is our time to be safe, to focus in on our healing, not worrying about anyone else, but just honoring our needs. So if you can, close your eyes and just begin to just focus in on your breath. Notice your breathing, maybe slowing down your inhales and exhales. Inhaling through your nose and exhaling through your nose. And I want you to just add a smile to your face. It doesn't have to be a Chester Cheezer smile, just a small Mona Lisa smile, just a hint of a smile. There's something said that when you smile, that it gives a message to the body, to the brain, that you're safe. And there's something so important about feeling that security. It tells our body that we're okay, we're good. We're in a good spot. We're in a good place. So when you're having moments of doubt or not feeling good, I invite you to take a moment to pause, to close your eyes, focus in on your inhale, and then smile through that. And if you don't have time to close your eyes or take those deep breaths, we always have time for breaths, but if you feel like you don't, just smile. There is healing in just the idea of smiling. And take one last deep inhale, exhale, and let us begin today's topic. Seeking your own advice. Seeking your own advice. This is new to me. I wanted to talk about this because I'm stepping into what is new territory for me. Last week, I talked about the uncomfortable side of change. Well, this is a change I've made recently in my life, and it's not uncomfortable, but it's just different. I am seeking my own advice. I'm not looking externally for advice, which is so odd for me. For me, normally, I started my day with, let's look at my astro future. And so let's see what's going on with the transits. Is, Mars messing with me again? Is Mercury still doing something? What's going on with the full moon, new moon? I was looking at everything. You've heard me talk about my astrologer, who is still amazing, and I do love her. But I intentionally this month was unintentionally, then intentionally realized that I was good. I didn't want to hear from someone else to hear what may be happening and having kind of like the Cliff Note version of what's going to be going on in my life. I didn't want that this month. I've worked with a Babalawo, with, the Ifa religion. I've worked with someone with voodoo. I've worked with tons of intuitive healers. I have my own tarot cards, which I definitely use, but I haven't been using lately. And of course, I am a course junkie. I am the girl who will go to 50 million workshops to figure out, okay, how do I get as much best advice from other people on how to navigate my life? I've gone through looking at the Akashic records. If you're not familiar with the Akashic records, they're records that contain, or they're considered records that contain the past, present, future possibilities, and all things within. And I'm like, well, if there's a book of life that can tell me what's going to happen in my life and what happened in past lives, I was all for it. But again, that was me looking externally for advice. That was me thinking, well, why should I look within? Because I didn't trust myself to look within. I needed to look externally for that advice. And so that's what I had been doing for so many years, and even up to more recently. But then something just switched. And it wasn't intentional. And that's how I know that I've been doing the work, because it wasn't intentional. It wasn't like I'm going to intentionally not look externally for advice. Instead, I'm going to look internally for advice. I wish I could say, oh no, I had this great idea. This is what we're going to do. That wasn't what happened. It just naturally started occurring. I started realizing that I also forgot to turn off my heater, so you may hear a boom because it's cold up in the state. Anyway, but I naturally started realizing that I was just like, I didn't need those things. And what I realized, what was happening once I started realizing I was doing this and I wasn't looking externally for different things, is that, oh wait, I'm starting to trust myself, because yes, self-trust has been a huge problem in my life. It's historically been an issue that I have suffered from. And there's many reasons why we don't trust ourselves, and that'll probably be a podcast one day soon. But in this instance, in this way of not self-trusting myself, was all about that me looking for reassurance from other people. My self-trust my lack of self-trust formulated in me looking externally for reassurance. Reassurance that I'm on the right path. That's the right decision to take. I should be doing this. I shouldn't be doing that. I should be the shoulds. Shoulds. The reassurance are the shoulds. It helped me should on myself. What should I be doing? How should I be living? What should I be avoiding? And when you should on yourself, it doesn't feel good, but it may feel natural because it's what you know. It may be your comfort zone. It was my comfort zone. And so I kind of been going through the uncomfortable side of change, and then ended up in the spot right now where I'm just like, oh, this is new. We're like looking around. It's like a new house that I just moved into. And I'm like, okay, we're seeing how this all works out. Let's see how this looks. Let's see how this feels. And I'm realizing that I kind of like this house. But it wasn't the house that I knew. It wasn't the house I grew up in. I grew up in a mad, deep-rooted feelings of lack of self-trust. And the reasons have shifted over the years of why I didn't trust myself. There's many different ways that I had lack of self-trust showing up in my life. But this reassurance seeking was my way of outsourcing decision-making. It was like, okay, let's see, who's going to be my spiritual fiber for today? Is it going to be astrology? Is it going to be my getting a Reiki healing? Even Reiki healing is like messages come up for other people. It comes up for me when I'm doing Reiki healing with other people. So I would go to my friends and get a Reiki healing, also to low-key get this Cliff Note version, this fiber healing moment of who can help me get to tell me where I need to go. And it was literally basically me saying, I don't want to make the decisions. I'm going to let all these other forms of healing and methods of whatever guide me. And it doesn't even have to be healing stuff, because before reassurance was going to my girlfriend and be like, hey girl, I'm thinking about doing this. What do you think? Or, hey, I'm really mad at such and such, and complaining and utilizing that as a form of reassurance. Oftentimes, us complaining is not just to vent. Us complaining is us trying to get that reassurance that, girl, you right. They were wrong. And I was doing that. I found myself complaining all the time. I found myself going to people for every single form of advice, to the point where I had a coach who I loved and thought he was great, and I still think he's amazing. But what I realized at one point in time was just like, he's running the show. Like, I might as well give him the name of the business, let him do everything, because I had literally given him all of the whether you call it power or decision making, whatever, but I trusted myself so little that I let that person make my decisions for me. I was doing things that weren't necessarily in alignment with my thought process, my body, my higher self, whatever you want to call it, because I didn't trust her. I didn't trust that she would make the right decision. I didn't trust that she knew what was best for me. And so that's how I've been living most of my life. So, I love these shortcuts, shortcutting using the Akashic records. And like, why have to go through it when the Akashic records would tell me, oh girl, this is what's going to happen in your future life. And this is what you need to work through to get there. I love a shortcut, but not every shortcut is the right shortcut for you. Because when you come habitually a person who skirts her responsibility of managing your own life because you're going to everyone else for reassurance, and you're not tapping into the person who got your back, who knows you better than anyone else, you may get some shortcuts, you may get some wrong cuts, you may go the wrong path because you're listening to someone else, because you're getting that reassurance. Because depending on who you're getting reassurance from, how you're getting reassurance, how do you even know that this is really the right path? And as I'm having this conversation with you, I'm like, dang, I wasn't thinking about that with all the times I'm working with people. And I'm not saying don't work with different people. I'm not saying don't trust astrology. I'm not saying don't look at intuitive healers. Don't look at different courses, tarot, and all these Reiki and all these different things, because they work. They definitely work. What I'm saying is there's nothing wrong seeking advice, but when that's all you do, Houston, there's a problem, because you are not the problem in the big elephant. I was about to say the red elephant. I'm like, shout out to my deltas. And then also shout out to my sorors, AKAs for our Founders Day. Now I'm back on the track. But like, the big elephant in the room is, it's great to get the advice from other people, but when you can't trust yourself, what are you going to do when no one's around? How are you going to survive at one point in your life on you? You're missing out on the best advice you can ever get when all you do is seek externally. Because what you're doing is you're sending a message to your brain that, oh girl, I don't trust you. No. Nope. You may think this way, but no, I don't trust you. That's what you're telling your brain. You're telling your brain you're sending the message to your brain, be like, do not trust this person. It's like when you have that ex who you don't like, and you put, instead of having their name, it's like, do not answer. That's what you're telling your brain. Do not answer this person. Do not listen to this person. I don't trust her. We're not answering her messages. We're not listening to her. That's the message you're telling your brain when you consistently look for external advice and reassurance in your life. And that was me until recently. Until recently, I realized we're cutting out the middleman. It wasn't intentional, but it's where we are. So, I started asking myself when I realized that, I was like, wait, you're not looking for external advice as much these days. How does that feel? How are you feeling with that? Like, do you feeling uncomfortable? Are you feeling anxious about it? And when I sat and had these conversations with myself, I realized, no, it feels odd, but not uncomfortable. I'm having more internal conversations with myself, with my inner child and my highest self. I'm also talking to my ancestors and God more. I'm listening to my body, and my body will speak many different things. I'm finding that I'm eating more on an intuitive level, more so than I ever have. Like all of a sudden recently, I am craving arugula. So I have been on this arugula kick, and I do dabble with eating meat. I don't know if I'm vegan-ish. I don't know what I am. But there's moments where I just can't eat meat. And it's not because I don't like the flavor, because a girl loves some bacon. I love pork. Can't eat chicken. And that's a whole other story. I used to love some chicken, but I can't eat chicken anymore. Shout out to ayahuasca on that one. But recently, the ideal of eating meat just feels so, it feels like this lump that's just going to sit in my body. It feels uncomfortable. It feels, I get like kind of like, if you ever had something sour in your mouth and your mouth like your tongue starts puckering up, it's that feeling that I get that when I think about eating meat. And so again, I've been, instead of looking externally, well, what does that mean? Maybe I should talk to someone. Should I talk to someone and find out, should I be eating meat? Should I not be eating meat? I've been just asking myself and trusting my body, trusting the voices inside to say, girl, okay, this is where we're rolling with. We're flowing. Because again, this year, we're talking about, my word of the year was flow. Flowing with whatever is going on. And so this is how I'm flowing right now. It's like I'm listening to my body and I'm not looking externally. Now, does that mean that, oh, I'm healed? Hallelujah. I'm never going to ask other people for advice. I'm never going to not trust my own opinion, not trust myself. Nah, that ain't it. That's not it at all. And again, I may be getting better at one form of self-trust, of lack of self-trust, but I'm still on my journey. There's still moments of, where I get anxious and I'm like, ooh, maybe I should run to my astrological chart and see what's going on. And there's moments when I do. And it's okay, because it's okay, again, to seek advice. But when that's all you do, that's the problem. And so I'm bobbing and weaving in this new territory. I'm learning how to feel more comfortable. Well, I don't feel uncomfortable. I'm learning to just flow with it. I feel more grounded when trusting myself. And it's this kind of weird thing where things may come up and I'm learning that I'm just more chill about things. Like I don't need external advice. I find myself like, I don't really care to look on social media, because for me, the way I've used, especially Instagram, is I use it to learn. I've used it to tell me what I need to be doing, tell me what I should be thinking about. And when I'm in a space now where I'm like, I kind of really I'm not there. I'm not in that house. I'm in this other house where I'm good with me. So I'm not on social media anymore. I just feel more grounded. So how do I feel? I feel more grounded. I feel that I'm listening to myself more, and it feels good. And this is new space that I'm in, and I'm okay with this new space. There's this interesting exercise I saw on Daily Om, and they were talking about this whole topic about seeking advice from yourself. And they were saying, ask your past and future selves for advice. They were saying even like to the point where you create like this higher self or this like self-counsel. So you have this counsel of your younger self, your present self, and your older self. And like you're asking them advice. And I thought it was really interesting. They're telling you to use your younger self that has been through things, has seen things, but also using your older self that's further on her healing journey to that person that you will become. And tapping into their viewpoints, thinking about how they would react in certain situations that you're currently facing. And like thinking about your younger self, when you're having those conversations with them, you're thinking about, what are the triggers that are still affecting her or him or them? What are the triggers that are still affecting them in your current present life that are showing up now? Like, what does she or he need right now to feel safe, to feel healed, like to be heard, to be seen? Like what do they need? Because oftentimes things that are happening in your life, currently we're asking for reassurance, it may be your inner child, the younger person that's still in you, that's not healed, that's still hurting, that still have some trauma that they're working through, that's acting out. But you're asking for advice from your present life, not realizing that they are playing a large role in your situation. And then you have your higher self, the other side, that is gone through the mountains, through the woods, and come out and saying, hallelujah, we ready here. We have self-compassion for ourselves. We take more risks. We care less about what other people think because we know that the answers are within us. And they want to enjoy life more. So being able to ask that person who's on a place where you know you want to be, who's done the work, who's had the healing, and has become who you know you are going to be becoming, asking them, well, how should I handle this situation? How should I go through these things? It comes from a different perspective. So having the perspective of knowing kind of from a different higher look on one side, and on the other side, having a perspective of this is what I've gone through, this is how I handled this stuff in the past, combining that with who you are currently, that counsel is like fire. That is like the trilogy of advice, the trilogy of power, the trilogy of confidence, of answers, of communication that we don't always often look at. So I thought that was a really cool exercise to try. And one of the things they mentioned was like creating a written dialogue with yourselves to record the thoughts and feelings and advice that you have, and like taking that advice from your younger self and your older self and just using it to your current situation. The reality of it all, your different selves can give you some invaluable answers. And the reality is no one knows you better than yourselves. No one knows you better than yourselves. So take an opportunity to tap further into seeking an advice from yourself. It's not something you have to do 24/7, 100%. If you ask advice from someone else, you failed. There's no failure in this. This is about finding the level of how much do you seek advice from yourself and how much do you seek research from someone else. Find that balance. There's not a all or nothing type of situation. This is finding out what works best for you in the current moment in your life. But what I can say is when you learn to trust yourself more, you show up differently. All the answers are within you. The answers are within your guide. I want you to trust your inner guide. She knows the way. She's there. She's got you. She's the one you need to trust. The answers are all within, but you just got to trust. That's today's podcast episode. I hope you get something. I hope you try the exercise. If you do, send me a message. Let me know how this works for you. What are your thoughts on trusting yourself? Are you in a space where you're seeking less advice from others and you're not looking for that reassurance? Let me know if this was a new aha for you to be like, oh, is my complaining really me looking for reassurance? Is my, asking for advice am I asking for advice more often than I'm looking internally? Journal this, see what's coming up, and, honor yourself to know that it's okay to be wherever you are. But when you know more, this is the opportunity to do more. I love you, and I'll see you next week. Ciao. Thanks for joining us this week on the Hello Well with Danielle show. Make sure to visit our website, hellowellwithdanielle.com, where you can subscribe to our show on iTunes, Spotify, and Amazon Music and never miss an episode. Also, you can follow us on social media at Hello Well with Danielle on Facebook and Instagram, and Hello Well Danny on Twitter. And if you like hella love the show and got some good nuggets out of it, know that I'm not too proud to ask for you to please leave a rating or review on iTunes so that we can continue to expand our reach and help other women of color. Again, thanks so much for listening, and I hope to see you next week. Ciao.